Ding 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 ding. Hello, everyone. Today we're here in the year 1956, and this is C4, here to talk about our first albums from this year. And we're going to talk about two albums today. Those are going to be number 1587 and number 1382 on the list. Now, these both have the same artist, which is known as the Modern Jazz Quartet, whom I had never heard of. We're looking at two albums of theirs that were both released at the beginning of this year. When I start a new year, I look up the release dates of all the albums and I try to put them in order. And these two albums for this artist both came first, so we'll cover them both in this video. And if you're worried that we won't then make it to 3,000 videos, well, we're going to have some honorable mentions this year that will include. So the titles of these albums are Django and Fontessa. The genre for both is cool jazz. The first was released on Prestige Records and the second on Atlantic Records. And the first was released recorded as far back as 1953. And Fontessa, the second album, was recorded in January and February of 1956. So they both are very early albums for this year, in any case. So let's take a look at the band. Here they are. Fine young gentlemen. What do I like most about this group? The vibraphone. One of them plays a vibraphone. You don't hear that. I love it. I don't think you hear it as often as we should. And what is a vibraphone? People aren't usually familiar with that term. A vibraphone is made of metal. A xylophone is made of wood. Okay, so if you have metal tines, that's a vibraphone. And it is used in things even nowadays. It used to be used in jazz more than it is, but it's also used by two bands I like that use it are Liquid, and Frank Zappa has a percussionist in his band that plays a lot of vibraphone. So I'm very happy about this. There's also a pianist, a drummer, and someone playing the upright bass. So there's a nice variety. There's not too much going on like the big band stuff where they have a whole, horn section and maybe a string section. It's very pared down. You can hear everyone. Sounds very stripped down. It sounds like deconstructed jazz. No horns blaring. No high notes of strings. It's nice though. It's not too busy. So here's the cover of the first album, which is Django. To me, this looks like an 80s album cover. It looks like a CNC Music Factory cover for some sort of group like that, some dance group. Nonetheless, this album, I sort of guessed it, and maybe you could guess that it is named after the guitarist Django Reinhardt. The second album is called Fontessa, and you see this has this, I want to say Victorian, but it's even before that. It's like 16th, 17th century Italian. This album is based on the Commedia dell'arte, and there's a link for that below if you look in the description. This is an early form of Italian theater. People would wear masks, and every play would have a lot of the same recurring characters who filled their roles in these skits. And this is actually where we get the character of the Harlequin from, or Arlecchino. It does go beyond that, but this is where the Harlequin is mainly known from, as well as the clown. There was a character named Clown. So this album sounds like, I want to say Victorian music. Sounds like classical music, more so. At least they're trying to emulate that. The opening track is called Versailles, so you can get the European influence. There's also a track on this album called Bluesology. I like that. I don't think it's bluesy enough to be called Bluesology. Some blues singer should have a song named that, but so be it. On the other hand, they cover Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I think it's just titled Over the Rainbow on this track. So very different stuff. They actually remind me, in both name and their idea, what they're trying to do, of Postmodern Jukebox. If you haven't heard of them, they're on YouTube, and the link again is provided below. And they take contemporary songs and they play them in the style of some vintage genre, right? They'll take a, I don't know, Britney Spears song and play it like a swing song, But modern jazz quartet might be doing sort of the opposite. They might be playing modern songs. No, I guess they would be. Or maybe they're playing old songs in a modern style. Well, I do see a lot of similarities. And check out most Postmodern Jukebox if you haven't. All right. Comment, like, and subscribe. See you tomorrow.